isolated incidents one from another, but it's happening more often of what people think. I've seen people throwing out food, especially what we had lived here in Puerto Rico with Hurricane Maria, in which there was a point in which we didn't know if we were going to get any food. That's how desperate the whole situation came down into a point, and you're throwing away food like toys. I've seen a lot of videos in the United States that are really disturbing. You're throwing food like it's a toy when there's a lot of people who are needing that food. So when you see the scope of it, there's a lot of it. I know the complaints that many customers can have. Oh, the service is also not the same. It's not been the same service because I didn't have to react to that because I had better service, right? The thing is that with time, and you add to that the employer's unwillingness to make workers' life better, even though they have margins in which they can. For example, you have companies like Walmart. Walmart, in the case of Puerto Rico, some employees they're even paying $16 an hour, and we applaud that. Let's put some applause on that. That's enough. So there are people who do that. They applaud that kind of behavior. But the thing is that Walmart, for example, if you examine really closely their numbers, they could pay an standard employee entry rate of around $19 to $20. The Walmart economic situation is way better than the post office right now, even though they have major losses throughout the years. They stick on the 16, so they have moved forward in some areas, because there are states like California and a lot of states that still have a couple of legal battles with this company. But the thing is that many companies, let's say for example, you're thinking about starting a company, and you're thinking about starting a company on the federal minimum wage. Do not start a company. Try to see how you can patent that idea and try to sell it, because you're gonna be a misery provider if that's your mindset to set up a business. You're gonna be a misery provider, and that's gonna bite you back, because employers are complaining of more losses through stealing and theft. And the fact is, this an underpaid person. He's gonna take something now along the way. So you move on forward. You have unhappy workers who are, and you see this more often too, that are not willing to take shit from nobody, and that's something that is normal, shouldn't be, but you have a shitty wage. You come to a point, you start. This is like the standard job experience, at least in Puerto Rico. I don't know if any part of the state, in any part of the states, quite the same. From what I've heard, in most states is still really respectful, sometimes really at retail. But in the case of Puerto Rico, for example, when you get to hire people and you get to the job, you were unemployed, and you're happy that you have a job. But when you see what you're earning and when you're paying back those bills, and you see what is getting to be left that you're barely don't have. In my case, I'm the head of a family. We have dependents in the house, so you have this case in which that you get this check and you actually are left with $100 to spend 2 weeks on gas expenses, food expenses. If you're not cooking, then I could hear you say it. You can get through food from your house. Yeah, sometimes you can, sometimes you don't. Especially if it is a full-time job and you're really drained, and when you get home, all you want to do is sleep. You don't want to get home to get to cooking. Most people tend to eat out because of that, and that becomes an additional expense. So even, okay, let's say for example that you cook in your house every day, it's still, you have barely $50 less than, you have $25. You can barely go to the movies. Good luck with that with a pandemic going on. You can barely go to the movies. It's really sad. And we're not seeing that. We are just seeing it. The thing is that it has become such an individual experience. And just listen, okay. Such an individual experience. You got the unhappy worker, and you got the thing is that sometimes I've seen this phenom too. That sometimes is an unhappy worker that goes to another unhappy worker, and they start clashing. And that's how we're living right now. Consumption has turned humans into literally zombies. And I think we're better than this. I think we should be behaving better. We should be better to one another. I don't know. But the thing is that in the case of Puerto Rico, I want to share this. In January 2017, it was signed the labor reform, the new labor reform, in which one we, until that point in Puerto Rico, by law, you had to have 12 sick days for an employee and 12 vacations days. That was lowered to 6 vacation days and 12 sick days. So there's a lot of loss of benefits that has been going on, and you have a lot of people struggling. And that struggle, that race of consumption that we have been breathing for years now, it's starting to kind of turn on us. It's turning us against each other, turning us into vile animals of consumption, because that's what we are right now. People, let's say about these people who don't have a mask, nobody's going to make me wear a mask, and I'm going to the store, the impulsive. I saw a video of an old guy. I'm not going to lie. The first time I saw it, my reaction was to laugh. But I have a thing that I have done from a couple of years to now, and it is that every time I see one of these funny videos, sometimes I tend to rewatch it. And the thing is that since I used to work in the film industry, every time I watch a video, I get something different out of it. You know, for example, there was this old video from a guy with a huge big stick, making a robbery to a convenience store, and I even saw the video so many times. I think sometimes I can name in the same order the items that are failing. Sometimes I think I can pronounce them, but. Well, the thing is that there was a video that came out recently throughout the pandemic. It was about this, you know, that in the United States there's this movement of people who feel that wearing a mask is a risk to their freedom and all that kind of bullshit. And it's really a really old guy, and you have to see him go. It is really worrying in this video because there's this guy, everybody's telling him to stop. He's forcing with everybody who's trying to, he shoves them with his elbows and everything, and he's like mad. He keeps on going like the fucking Energizer Bunny. He keeps on going and going, and he goes inside the store eventually without a mask, putting people at risk. But his thirst of consumption makes you, in that particular video, I can tell you, I laughed the first time, but that doesn't mean that I kept laughing after I started analyzing how badly this consumption behavior, how degraded it has become. And it is, I'm not saying it's bad that you buy stuff that you want, but do you want it in a way so bad you're willing to hurt or fucked up another human being together? That's the point that I want to get across here, you know, that we need to be a little bit more conscious about that there's other workers, and workers, I know that the wages are not fine, and I don't have the moral ground to tell a worker who's been underpaid to work better, and that will not happen to you. No. There needs to be law and legislation. We had that 725 for a long time now. And we keep on celebrating Labor Day like we have labor when we have slave labor. And I think we are celebrating a really mispronounced holiday, because it should be called like that. It should be called slave labor, because you know they are slave to money because of their debts, and since you have that advantage, that leverage over people, you're taking full advantage of it. But full, complete advantage of it. It's not like slightly advantage of it. employers knows it. They want you to keep you on a grounded level, so grounded they start ripping out your moral core, so that you just stay there, that you don't have energy to get somewhere out than there. And if you get out, they have five. Do you think I'm finally gonna get out? They don't give a fuck. Unless you give a fuck about yourself, nobody will give a fuck about yourself. And you have to start thinking. People, if you have an idea, you have some savings, and you have an idea of business, this is the time to do it. But do not create business to provide the same misery your employer is giving you. That's the advice I'm giving you all. So, I think that's kind of about it. Now, I want to make some further announcements. We have, besides this podcast, we also have the House of Macedon podcast, in which we're starting out with drum and bass one weekend, and then the other weekend we are having house music. But now, it's in October, we will be exploring a little bit more genres. I think not from October. I think now in mid-September you will be hearing some new stuff. So there's a lot House of Macedon, a lot of music going on over there. We got El Macedon podcast, in which we discuss almost the same topics, but mostly since we are in politics, and that's something that's really a really important point I need to make. Since I know we're in a political season, the people who know me and know the original podcast, El Macedon podcast, know that podcast is full driven on politics right now. And in this case, I haven't mentioned key politics or politicians, and I haven't bring that into the hurdle because the Macedon podcast is mostly on an open format. It's an open format podcast, so that's why we haven't done it like that. So, in the case of the Macedon podcast, we'll be talking about this. We'll have the topic of politics because it's 2020, it's happening, so we cannot, ignore it like it's not happening. So, but this podcast will be mostly about entertainment stuff, about stuff that has to be with us being better, like this episode, and there's many more surprises to come here. So, thank you. And the networks. Remember that if you are not subscribed to, for example, you don't like Spotify, well, you can find us on YouTube. The problem with YouTube is that it splits the videos. I think it's in certain portions of around 30 minutes. But if you don't like that option, you can go down to SoundCloud.com. It's Macedon Media. It's MAC3DON. It's Macedon, but we stylize the E with a 3. And Media. We go there in SoundCloud. It's important to subscribe, because as soon as the episode gets uploaded, SoundCloud, you have notifications. You're subscribed on my page in SoundCloud, and you get notifications in the moment that the episode goes up. So this is Marcel Macedon Cruz for the Macedon podcast. I'm really thankful for your audience, your patience. Take care. Be nice.